I always make fun of it and stuff. But isn't everything we're doing in life a way to be loved a little more?
I happened to watch Before Sunset on a plane and desperately felt like rewatching the other two as well. Watching them out of order like this was an interesting experience, as I was able to find seeds of the people they'd eventually become, as well as all the ways they had changed. What was interesting of all was seeing how their stories rhymed as we went from their hopeful and idealized versions of 1995 to 2004 and 2013, where they've been worn down by life a bit and got up and close and personal with disappointment.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
If you haven't watched them in a while, or at all, here's a recap of the movies. Spoiler warning for the whole trilogy, by the way.
I feel like this is some dream world we're in, you know?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like our time together is just ours. It's our own creation. It must be like I'm in your dream and you in mine or something.
It's often said that Before Sunrise is what romance could be. We start on a train, a German couple arguing loudly. Celine, our protagonist, played by Jewel Delpy, is on her way back to Paris from a visit to her grandmother in Budapest, and is sitting close to them. As the fight gets heated, she decides to sit somewhere else, which just happens to be next to Jesse, our other protagonist, played by Ethan Hawke. An American with an E-Rail pass is on his way to Vienna to catch a flight back to his home country. They strike up a conversation, grab some coffee, and seem to be getting along great. Problem is, Jesse is supposed to be dropped off in Vienna, while Celine is going back to her home in Paris. When his stop comes along, he comes up with the crazy and ultimately wonderful idea that she should come down with him so they can keep talking. She does. It's a bit awkward at first, but they find their footing as they discuss a little bit of everything, from art and poetry, rebellion, heartbreak, and all that is in between. Through all of it, they fall for each other, if just a bit. Their connection is undeniable, but as the night starts to wind down, they sober up to the notion that Jesse has a flight back to the US in mere hours, and Celine has her whole life waiting for her in Paris. Young and scared of disappointment, they say they'll make the night memorable, but that's all it'll ever be. No phone numbers or addresses exchanged. It doesn't last. As they say their goodbyes at the same train station from the beginning, they both admit that they don't want this to be the end. In a hurry, they promise to meet up on the same spot 6 months from then. And that's where we leave them, wondering what they might become.
Do I look any different?
I'd have to see you naked.
What?
I know, I'm sorry. No. Do I look any different?
No. No. Oh, well, actually, you have this line.
I know.
It's like a scar.
A scar? What,
No.
like a gunshot wound?
No, I like it. I'm sorry.
It's 2004, full 9 years from where we've last seen them. We pan through all the places in Paris we'll visit throughout the movie, and finish in front of a bookstore. Jesse Wallace, author of the latest New York Times bestseller, This Time, has stopped at the City of Lights as a closing spot on his book tour. The book, turns out, is about two strangers who fall in love in a single night and have to be separated, promising to meet again 6 months later. Sounds familiar? Everyone who reads it seems to catch up to the fact that the book rings a little too autobiographical, including Celine, who we see standing in the corner of the bookshop. Seeing her gives him pause, and once the journalists leave, the first thing he wants to do is talk to her. From greeting alone, you can tell that they're strangers once again, and start to wonder what happened in December 1995. Once again, Jesse has a plane to catch, but he has to leave in less than an hour. Still, they go out for coffee, and do nothing but talk for the next hour and 15 minutes of the movie. Jesse did go back to Vienna, but Celine didn't. Her grandma, same one that, in a way, put her in the path to meet Jesse in the first place, died just a few days before December 16th, the funeral taking place that very day. She apologizes profusely, but he assures her he never begrudged her for it. From that, conversation remains on heated but safer topics, like work, politics, and the overall awful state of the world. Slowly, we figure out where they're at. Jesse's married with a kid. Celine has a boyfriend. His marriage is being held by string cheese. Her boyfriend is always away, and she prefers it that way. He wrote the book to find her, and she hoped he would. On his way to the airport, he insists to take her home first, follows her all the way up the stairs to her apartment, and comes in for a cup of tea. She plays him a song, tells him he's gonna miss that plane. He knows it, and he doesn't care. The movies are contrasting forces in so many ways. In Sunrise, they're in this beautiful reality where strangers are kind and offer poetry and theater, and bartenders hand out full wine bottles on handshake promises, where they have no money and yet all the money they need to have an interesting and picturesque night. They ride the Ferris wheel at sunset, see the carnival light up, have dinner by Lakeview. Time is nothing for them. It's a dream, and yet it is everything. They talk of dreams and how real magic exists in the attempt to understand one another in the act of sharing a moment together. They see it in each other, in knowing that their lust for life has been reignited from this singular night. They're idealistic, still seeing life as this never-ending pool of opportunities, where they'd rather avoid experiences altogether if they can't be in the exact way they want it. With Celine not wanting to sleep with him since they wouldn't see each other again, and their refusal to exchange numbers or addresses to have any way to contact each other. And in Sunset, we get to see the other side, where they know for a fact that connection is hard to come by and even harder to maintain. It's why we see them fight for every second they're able to spend together, even with so many complications standing in their path. Jesse's marriage, Celine's boyfriend, the miles and miles that separate their homes, and that doesn't even begin to cover the baggage that they're carrying emotionally. Talking to each other isn't easy this time around. For a time, all they can see when they look at each other is the missed opportunities and the roads not taken. But even here, with this grounded and much more realistic approach to what life is like, they're able to choose each other and hope for the best. If we want to get more specific, I love the contrast between the cafe scene in Sunrise and the one in Sunset. One is so full of playfulness and hopeful confessions. It encapsulates all the beauty of this night that they're sharing, and the beginning of the realization that it's coming to an end soon. He compares her to a Botticelli angel, for Christ's sake. In Sunset, on the other hand, it's the moment we first get to see where they're really at, emotionally speaking. It's the grief over the moments in which they were so close, yet so far, such as when Celine was living in New York and so was Jesse, as well as their disillusions, her encounter with gun violence, their aging bodies, falling back on addictions like cigarettes, and yet, it's so clear where they work, how easily they can talk about anything and everything. We see how Jesse started out as the cynical one and Celine as a dreamer, but when we meet them again, she's the one that's lost touch with the magical side of life. Meanwhile, Jesse writes a whole book idealizing their night. Even through one encounter, they were able to fundamentally change each other.
I'm just trying to make things better here. All right, I tell you that I love you unconditionally. I tell you that you're beautiful. I tell you that your ass looks great when you're 80. I'm trying to make you laugh.
Okay.
All right, I put up with plenty of your shit. And if you think I'm just some dog who's gonna keep coming back, then you're wrong. But if you want true love, then this is it.
This one's tough because it's real. For starters, it's the first time we really step out of the Celine and Jesse world, with other characters playing proper roles. Life can't fit just the two of them anymore, for so many reasons. We start with Jesse dropping off Henry, the previously mentioned son, at the airport to get back to the United States. From the dialogue, we can tell that he and the now ex-wife are not in good terms. I wonder why. And as Jesse leaves the airport, we see Celine casually waiting by their car. Still together then, that's nice. And with twins. Their world looks very different indeed. But some things never change, and we get back to their usual banter. The intimacy that has been built up through the last few years is palpable. The topic's quite domestic. It takes them a while to truly get a moment to themselves. Only as they're heading to the hotel, a kind gift from their Greek friends, that they seem to be able to talk freely. Turns out that's a blessing and a curse for them.
Still there. Still there. Gone.
It's poignant that when the sunset ends, things start to fall apart. What starts as a simple opportunity for them to get some alone time, and do what most couples do, ends in an argument about things that have seemingly been building up for quite some time. The rough state of Jesse's relationship to his ex-wife, Celine's struggles with domesticity, and seemingly their struggle with fidelity. Though that not even their faded love could stop. And to be fair, their official relationship did start with cheating on both sides. So they tentatively make up by the end. But you can tell that the problems themselves are not fixed. You can only hope that they'll put in the work eventually. Midnight spends a significant amount of time deconstructing the idea of a soulmate, or a fated person you're meant to be with. When we see the couple talking to the friends, the matter of love, the ways of love, and to be a partner is heavily discussed.
I mean, that's the thing that fucks us up, right? This idea of a soulmate, of someone who will come to complete us and save us from having to take care of ourselves.
They talk about the finality of love in many ways, and we see the discomfort in Jesse and Celine, while they still would like to hold on to the idea there was a path meant to be followed, a string that connected the two of them through these 9 years apart and 9 more together. I particularly like the sunrise and sunset speech given by Natalia, an older woman who's already lost her husband.
She appears and he disappears, like a sunrise or a sunset or anything so ephemeral. Just like our life. We appear and we disappear. And we are so important to some, but we are just passing through.
The early days, in which they were dictated by the sun, could never represent the fullness of what their relationship would be, which is why now they're left with midnight, sun long gone, and reality sunk in. Reality is that at 23, Jesse would complain that his parents stuck together because of the kids, and how he wishes they would have just divorced and spare him and his sister of the mess. And at 41, we see that he created a scenario just as draining for his own kid. He did take the initiative to divorce her, yes, but handled it so poorly that 9 years later, they're still barely on speaking terms. He had such fears of being just a nice dad instead of being amazing, and barely manages to be that. Nice! With how little he's able to see Henry, with all this talk of greatness, it makes you wonder, is that why he chose Celine in the end? To have something memorable? A feat so great it transcended almost a decade, 3 countries and 2 continents. Could this be why he threw away his marriage and the ability to be there for his own kid away? Reality is that Celine, who at 23 was so unsure on how to be both a strong, independent icon of womanhood, as she said, and someone who longs to love and to be loved, as if there was no way these two things could coexist. At 32, her answer was to be with someone who was always away, giving her the independence she felt was necessary to maintain her identity. But at 41, the struggle remains, except there's no escaping the responsibilities motherhood placed upon her. Even at her most successful career-wise, she still feels suffocated, like there isn't a minute of the day for her to be the old Celine. She both loves and resents the path that her life took. Reality is them coming to terms with the fact that love isn't the entirely selfish feeling they saw it as in the beginning. Neither is purely work and devotion, like they say midway through. It's all of it, and none of it. Love is a choice that they make every day, not only towards each other, but towards themselves. Patrick, the author that housed them in Greece, put it best.
What about Grandma? Was she soulmate?
Well, it sounds appealing, but actually your grandmother was more rational than that. She took care of herself and asked me to do the same, with plenty of room to meet in the middle. But it must be obvious that my wife is not here today. We were never one person, always two. We preferred it that way. But at the end of the day, it's not the love of one other person that matters, it's the love of life.
Some things stay the same though. At their core, Jessie still feels like a little kid projecting what adult life will be like. And Celine feels like she lived it all. Something that is probably talked about often enough that it seeps through Jesse's idea for his new book. She always does end up being his muse. There's a beautiful contrast in the way that these stories are told, and what they say about freedom in each stage of life. With Sunrise, they get to leave a train in Vienna with a stranger for hours and hours on end, as we see afternoon, night, dawn, and morning. In Sunset, we get the minutes that they're able to squeeze in before a flight, played out in real time because you can't look away. You feel the same desperation they do, knowing these minutes, for all they're stretched, might be all they're ever gonna get. As for Midnight, what you're seeing is just a fraction of all the time they spend together, but it's meaningful because it's the first time in a while that they're able to really talk, that isn't contained to the few minutes that the girls are asleep in the car or playing with the other kids. And we see how that builds, how all these years we weren't privy to have shaped them into these people. They have so much, yet so little time.
Let's say that you and I were together all the time. You'd start to hate a lot of my mannerisms. The way every time that we would have people over, I'd be insecure and I'd get a little too drunk. Or the way I tell the same stupid pseudo-intellectual story again and again.
When you talked earlier about, after a few years, how a couple would begin to hate each other by anticipating their reactions or getting tired of their mannerisms, I think it would be the opposite for me. I think I can really fall in love when I know everything about someone.